Hello, and thank you for joining us. It is the Theory of Think Investment podcast. My name is James Wheeler, Managing Director of Barclay Pierce Capital's Wealth Management Team. I'm joined here by Heath Moss of HLM Investments. Heath, how are you now?
Very good, mate. Very good. Thanks for having me on as per
Mate,
usual.
I am fresh. I am strong. I am back from road trip extraordinaire, joined by the amazing Michael, who's heads up our corporate team, taking Wellnex around Australia. And just it's funny. So you mentioned it. Brought to you. I'm going to be having the Wakey Wakey. It's a lemon flavor, lemon and lime flavor. Wakey Wakey. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. That'll keep you
Beautiful.
awakey. And that's been powering the podcast for a while now, and I do thank them for their assistance. It's not fun. This is sort of more of a joke than anything, but because we do the corporate stuff for Wellnex that owns Wakey
Hmm.
Wakey, they just give us these things. So that's it's sort of how it is. So
Fantastic.
when I say we're sponsored by them, it's just this stuff, man. So did you get yours in the mail, Heath?
I do have it there. I just haven't got to pick it up yet from the post box.
Sacked,
I know.
sacked.
I know. I got a
Yeah.
message the other day saying something was there. I don't get much mail these days because everything is electronic. But yeah, it's waiting for me. I can't wait to dive in. I used to take Barocca back in the
Yeah.
day a while ago, and I suppose these are very very similar. And
Similar. Yeah.
I'd like to get off the energy drinks because I do drink a lot of energy drinks. So
Well, that's
if this helps, then I can reduce my intake of energy drinks.
it does help. It will assist with that. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just going to move this camera a
Oh,
touch.
you're
I'm not
not?
a I'm not a I'm not a medical doctor.
Oh, it's not Dr. James Wheeler.
Yeah. Yeah, we are live from Barclay Pierce Capital's Studio 54 here in Sydney. It is 10:47 on the 23rd of August. It's almost September 2024. Mate, we've got a few things to get through. First off, just a recap of my last few days. It was Monday Roadshow, Tuesday Sydney Roadshow continued, back to back 6 or 7 broker meetings and various high net wealth family offices, stuff like that. Amazing response. It's being on the road. You sort of just lean into it and just go, I'm going to wear the same suit for 3 days. As you go through, you just get beaten and bruised. As I've said, that when I was young, I used to envy the corporate guys, the guys sort of hot shot guys, taking the company back to back, and we did this. It's all good, and then you're just like, it's good, it's satisfying, but you gotta like doing it. Um,
Yeah.
on a plane, one of the last flights out of Sydney because we had just so many things to get through, and down to Melbourne. Melbourne back to backs all Wednesday, which was great. Every broker was just very very positive on the story, which was fantastic.
Hmm.
Telling the same story again and again can sometimes be a bit draining. You need different ways of telling it, different approaches and things that you want to do. Mate, Wednesday afternoon, a few drinks at the Mitre. It absolutely torrential rain,
Yep.
and we just finished six meetings, like I said, back to back, no breaks in between. Very very quick lunch going through it, and I was just like 3 o'clock, beers at the Mitre, which is where I always like to go. And I'm walking down Bank Place in Melbourne. It is, and you can start to see the flood is sort of coming. And I basically slow motion walk in my suit, just getting drenched. And the guy's just like, "Are you all right?" I said, "Nothing is stopping me from getting to this place right now. Okay, we are done. It is now time." Anyway, so meaning that, and then down to one faggy yesterday. So what's today? Friday. So yesterday, so up fairly early. Got on the road, got the hire car. It was a Renault Koleos actually, which
René Collier, say?
a sensational vehicle, mate. A little
Oh,
SUV
okay.
thing. Because I went with the MG as
Mhm.
for our SUV. We needed to get an SUV, and I'm driving this Koleos, just going, "This is a good vehicle, man." So we should get Renault. If Renault want to sponsor us with a Koleos, mate, give us a call. But anyway, so down to Wonthaggi, which is down far south, sort of it's on the beach near Phillip Island, down
Okay.
that
Yep.
way. About
Yep.
2 hours out of Melbourne, or 1.5 hours out of wherever we need to go. Uh, Down there to Wellnex and Chemist Warehouse and One Life Botanicals, which is a
Yep.
cannabis manufacturer, or a cannabis company. They've got a JV, and it's called Wellnex Life. Anyway, so the idea is that Chemist Warehouse needs to get more into that cannabis space. I mean, we're actually talking about stocks here, so this is a thing, right?
Yep.
It's very
Yep.
very interesting sort of situation. So Chemist Warehouse does 30% of the prescription business in Australia. In cannabis, they're only 1 or 2% of that
Oh,
of
okay.
that market. There is a gap. There's a gap for Chemist Warehouse there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, yeah.
And so that
How big is the subscription prescription? Sorry, base for cannabis in Australia, dollar
I
wise.
want
Do
to
you know?
say, it's about $500 million this year.
That's
It's
bigger than I thought.
probably about double that next year. I'll tell you what, for someone that sat back to back in 6 meetings and also helped and contributed and actually ran some of these ones, my ability to forget numbers 20 minutes after I had to remember them is just phenomenal. My brain is a
Mm.
filing cabinet. The it's about it doubles up to about 800 or 900 next year, and
Yeah.
onwards with that. We are
Wow.
Australia is the biggest uptaker of this particular thing. So it's a big thing in Australia that's going on with it. There's also the idea is people try to switch off opioids and
Yeah.
the alternatives that they find in this one too. Huge business in that space. Anyway, so Dan saw the factory, which is great. So they take us into the whole thing. Security passes. So this is
do they grow it here? They grow the
yeah.
plants.
There is a place where it is grown.
Yep.
And we won't go into that.
Okay.
That's where it is. But when they get what they get. But it's good to sort of going into the factory. I haven't actually been like an on site since I was back in the mining days, right?
Yep.
Gloves on, hairnet on, the full cape and everything that's on there. All phones, everything out of anything with a battery out of the thing. It's full of ethanol, so you don't want anything sparking it off. Everything is anti-static. You got the little booties on over the RMs. Just the full thing. It's security clearances and everything that you need. It's just like this is a high level cannabis facility in very, very regional Victoria. It's we're talking Gippsland sort of area that's out there, West Gippsland. So I'm an East Gippsland guy, but it's just phenomenal. And it's because the founder was originally from there, and he wanted to put something back in that particular part of the world, and he put, one of the highest levels. So they're making. We saw the gel caps. So they make little balls, like your Panadol or anything like that would come in. They got the machine that makes the gel caps. They're the only people in the Southern Hemisphere that can do that. Cannabis in a gel cap.
Fantastic.
It's going to change the whole thing, and
remember
also even the terminology. Yeah, go on.
I remember the day when we had that massive cannabis boom on the market. I think it was 2017. Around then. And that was based on the US and Canada and legalizing cannabis, and not only medically but recreationally. A lot of states in the US, obviously, you can go out and smoke cannabis recreationally. And from listening to Kevin Smith, if some people might know him from Jay and Silent Bob, but he had a podcast, and simple things like, in America, if you bought cannabis in certain states, I think it was Colorado, they had to put it in a bag. And they had to staple the bag, and that bag could not be opened until you got home. The staples were sort of that sort of lock in that contract. So if you got caught with the bag open and the staples open, you're in trouble. But if you didn't and you went home with it and opened it there, you're fine. It's like just little nuances like that. And then of course we had that massive boom in the cannabis stocks here that ran very, very hard. Multiple bags, lots of baggies.
Ludicrous. Yeah. I mean, for the back, it was just that sort of thing of just any man and his dog was just like, we've got this thing, we've got the plant, we're growing these things. Just like, dude, cannabis growing is such a flooded market.
It is. Yeah. The plant itself. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other, I mean, this is actually a good conversation. We didn't plan this at all, which is handy. I like these sorts of organic, and also it's been my life for the last 4 days. So I'm going to talk about it. What is it? The cannabis, so you can't advertise it. So I can't if I've got it's illegal. Who was doing that? They were sponsored GWS, or they sponsored someone, and they had the little cannabis company. It was on it was on one of the AFL teams.
I didn't know that.
They had to take it off. No, it was Gold Coast Suns. Because Gold Coast has got the biggest user base for this stuff. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no one's surprised by that fact either. So, but you can't advertise it. So this is where the advantage is. So I can't have my little cannabis company, my little THC situation, and go and advertise that. It's illegal to advertise it. However, what is legal is to advertise the service, i.e. a telehealth service where you can call up and go through and actually get a doctor to run through exactly what you've got. Yes, I've got anxiety. These are the things. These are the symptoms. What do you reckon? And they're just like, well, we've got this. I'll write you a script for some cannabis. Go through, see what you want. That you can advertise. You can say there's a telehealth service, which and you'll probably be able to get the treatment that you need, that will help you. And you can do that. So you can advertise that, which is why you've got something like the Chemist Warehouse thing, with the telehealth connectivity that they've got, that's something that you can advertise, and that's where that growth comes from. Yeah. That's been my life, man. And I got back last night, so I missed out on going to the Tigers game last night because we're just so enamored with that One Life Botanicals company that we're in there. Walk the facility, and then we're talking to the CFO, talking to people about just the details on the company, and just in there, I'm just like, man, I'm not getting back to Sydney by 6:30, so I could be at Leichhardt by 6:30, and miss this. So anyway, so I had to miss it. But work comes first. And the Tigers got up last night. So those boys, I'll tell you what.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
Go Tigers.
Just phenomenal. Anyway, mate, market wrap. I've taken too long. Now, also the draft. The draft is on at 12. I've moved it to 12.
Oh, the NFL draft.
It's draft day today. It's on at 12 o'clock today. May the odds be ever in your favor, my friend. But yeah, this is going to be good. We've got to put some sort of wager on this draft as well as we go. We'll put a beer on it. Okay?
Number one.
We'll put a beer on it. We'll put a beer on it. See who can win that fantasy league. Okay.
No worries. Sounds good. If McCaffrey's if I can get close to number one and McCaffrey's there, I'll be taking him. That's for sure. Even though he may miss the first round. So yeah. But anyway, I will share my screen. Where am I?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the HLM Heath Moss market wrap.
Market wrap. Beautiful. So we got the S&P 500 up on the screen. You basically got all its gains back from those falls a couple of weeks ago with the the Japanese flash crash and those recession fears, which are totally been thrown out the window now. It's been a very quiet week in terms of macro data. We had some S&P 500 services PMI out in the US last night, which was stronger than expected. So again, this debunking of the US is in recession or close to recession. It's more of that no landing or maybe soft landing scenario for the US. Economy still looks very healthy, although within that the PMI stuff last night, prices were down, which is good, but on the employment side of things was also down. So a little bit weaker on the employment side of things. Outside of that, we've got continuing and initial jobless claims, which came in as expected. Everyone's sort of waiting for Powell to speak at Jackson Hole tomorrow morning, I think it is our time.
Yeah. I'm so sick of everyone talking about what's going to be talked about. Guys.
The market knows. I mean, the speakers that have come out, like we had 3 come out last night, and it's sort of tempering market expectations. Yes, we're going to cut in September, but it's only going to be 25 basis points, barring any, they've got one more jobs report to come before then. So unless that is a catastrophe, it's going to be 25 basis points, and the market's probably going to have to pare back the amount of cuts they expect for the rest of the year. I think it's 100 basis points factored from this rest of the year, which means one cut has to be 50 basis points at some point. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be 3.
Yep.
Gradual cuts is what they're emphasizing, and I dare say that's what Powell says.
Powell's taken it this long. Like, why would they then suddenly either take the eye off the ball, or why would they lose some of that? You've guided this thing down to the runway. Why would you then take your hands off the wheel?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, it was all to do with that really soft US data that spooked everyone. But like I said, it was probably 2 data sets combined with what happened in Japan and the Intel job shedding, which really sort of got everyone in a panic. And but yeah, since then the markets have come back up. Earnings have been quite good as expected, up around 11% for Q2. I think the mega caps, the Mag 7, have done about 35% earnings growth. The rest of the market's around 7.5%, which I think is really solid and decent. And we're getting the same sort of commentary. Lower income and maybe lower middle income are struggling and being very wise with their spending, whereas the upper end middle income and higher income are doing very, very well still. So yeah, same story. Not much else to talk about there, really. It's been really, really quiet this week. I think markets at SP 500 is up about 0.3%. NASDAQ's down 0.1%. I've got the NASDAQ on the screen now. It's still a little bit off of those highs, about 2 to 3% off those highs still in the NASDAQ.
Yeah.
But
Now
things
I'm just going
like
to cut in. I'm going to cut in while you talk about that and talk about
go for it,
implied volatility.
do it.
Implied volatility. There you go. Is that implied volatility? Is that what I've got?
I
That's
can't see it. Sorry.
that's the implied volatility term structure.
Yep.
And it shows the shortest. Look at the short. I mean, let's not get too confusing on this one. The shorter dated, the implied volatility is massively spiked. Can you see that where you
No,
are?
I've just got a black screen. Sorry.
It just shows. Oh wow, that's handy.
Yeah.
It shows just how all eyes are on what Powell is going to say.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I will now stop sharing at that one. I hope everyone managed to gain something from that one. You go back to your thing, mate. Sorry.
No worries. So that's the US. Here in Australia, we're in the middle of our main reporting season. Should extend that line up there, and it's probably been better than expected. I think earnings were expected to fall by about 3%. They're coming in above that, and the growth for next year is around 5%. Again, tech doing very well here. The likes of Pro Medicus, Wise Tech, Zero, all doing very, very well. Margins expanding, earnings expanding around 30%. Utilities have done very well here. AGL put out a very good report. Insurance also, premiums are up, and obviously there's been no catastrophes or anything that to be worried about. So IAG, QBE, Medibank, the health insurer, have done all very, very well. Whereas on the other side, and we're seeing it this morning, someone like Accent Group, who's discretionary retailer in footwear mainly, being smashed 12% on a miss and Dow forecast. So that's been the theme there. Again, struggling consumer here in Australia, and it's probably the struggling consumer here in Australia is probably more broad based than it is in the US, simply because anyone who's got a mortgage or renting, so you're talking about 70% of the Australian population, are being feeling the pinch from rate rises, and then rent rises as well. So that's eating into our consumer spending here. So we're up. What are we? We're down 0.4 today, so we're up about 0.3% for the week on the XJO. We've got the big guys reporting next week: BHP, Woodside, West Farmers. It'll be interesting to see what BHP say about the China and the iron ore situation, because that's getting a lot of headlines in commercial mainstream media of late. I think maybe it's been overdone a little bit. What you're seeing from China, obviously, is a big buildup of steel inventories, and prices have come down as a result. But a lot of that is to do with the new steel legislation that will come in September, where there will be I think there's penalties for not for the way you produce steel if it's not green, along those lines. So people are trying to
that's
dump
why you need
their
magnetite. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's why we've got a magnetite
company.
investment that's gonna hit the. I have just the magnetite company for you. It's gonna list on the AIM in a couple of months. Anyway,
so we've seen Chinese companies and steel mills, especially smaller ones, are dumping inventory at the moment at lowest prices to get them off their books. I think we'll see some recovery in iron ore and steel prices towards the end of the year. I don't think anything fantastic, but I saw the World Steel Council figures like yesterday, and China was down slightly in terms of steel production, but India and USA, I think even Japan, were up. So they're sort of making up that difference of what China was down. Not all of it, because obviously China is the largest steel maker in the world by a long way. But yeah, and that India story, I think I want to hear from BHP, because last time around BHP had seen around 40% growth in their iron ore exports to India. So I want to see if that is still growing at that sort of rate, and if India sort of not going to be the next China, but sort of can take up some of that slack from that we're seeing in China moving forward from their property market. So that's about it there. Probably worth looking at the US dollar, which has absolutely tanked this week, and that's mainly on the back of rate expectations in the US. They're expecting, I think, about 8 cuts up until July next year, 7 or 8 cuts, whereas the EU and Japan, etc., which are the main weightings in the Dixie, are not going to see as many. So that rate differential sort of it changes and makes the US dollar less attractive. So we've seen a massive thing, and we've seen the carry trade unwind. So people are selling US dollars to buy back yen, and we've seen a very strong yen. If I bring that up, let me think. USD JPY, I think, is the code. Beautiful. So we're seeing that yen. This is the US dollar yen. It was around 162. It's now 146. So it's gained quite a bit of strength there. Obviously, it's the inverse. The lower the number, the stronger the yen. So that's about it, really. Maybe copper. Copper inventories are starting to fall again. And
Let's pull up aluminium in a second too.
Aluminium.
Been watching aluminium.
Geez, I don't even know the code for that.
Just type it in. Aluminium futures, there you go.
There we hang on. Let me go back. Yeah. Oh no, where did I go? Hang on. You talk for a little bit while I find the aluminium futures.
Alumin. Aluminium.
There we go. Aluminium spot.
No. Okay.
No, that's India.
Wrong market. Ham-fisted. Look, mate, as an operator, you just aluminium futures. Just type in AL. It's there. Down. Oh shit. Down.
There, I've seen it.
No.
That's Chinese futures.
It's the same. That's Apple as well. Okay. Look, just if you can't get aluminium futures, just buy Apple. You should do okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I am gonna.
There we go. Oh, that's not my fault, actually.
Okay, good. It's not your fault. That's fine.
That one's not my fault.
Blame the tech.
I am.
Mate, it doesn't matter. I saw aluminium was having a bit of a pop because of inventories are low on the LSO. So LME. I don't have anything else to add. If you want to ask me more about cannabis or Melbourne or the brokers that I talked to, that's all that I could offer.
Yep.
Apart from that, I come back to an inbox which is at capacity.
Yep. Well, we've got NVIDIA reporting next week. That will be obviously a big mover. And
that'll be pretty substantial.
I don't know the implied move, but I think last time it was like 8 to 10% was the implied move last time, and I think it moved 15% or something like that.
Yep.
So it's going to be a market move. Everyone's going to watch it. Any sort of slight weakness or bearishness in their numbers or commentary, and you watch those semiconductors absolutely tank. And will be a driver of markets. I mean, the only risk I can see is they were due to bring out those Blackwell chips. I think it was the end of June or something along those lines, and that got pushed back three months. So whether there's maybe some downward revisions on earnings expectations for a quarter, as maybe the big boys hold off spending that capital until those chips are available. Maybe that's where we see some of that downside move. But outside of that, it should be quite bullish, I dare say, because I can't see where the weakness is coming from demand at the moment. It looks very, very strong still.
All right. I don't know, man. I'm already. Yeah.
You checked out.
I've checked out completely, mate. I got my phone is just buzzing with stuff I've got to do. Okay. I can't sit here and talk about this all day. Give me a footy tip and then
footy tip. My last week's footy tip was a disaster. It's about as bad as what Rankin is feeling at the moment. So this week I've gone for the Swans versus the Crows. I've gone Swans at the line. The line's only 20.5. I think the Crows have checked out. It's been a disaster of the week. So that's paying $1.90. But I think the Swans could win by 7 or 8 goals. So
how have the Swans not checked out as well, mate? They've got first place locked in. I'm racking the queue.
Really? I reckon they want.
You can't have both teams just checked out.
I think Swans at -40.5 on the line at $3.20 is good money, especially playing in Sydney. I think the Crows are just done. Have signed out. They're done. Unfortunately, so either of those two.
Well, look, there's the Tigers, there's Penrith, there's Melbourne. I got to stick with my ability to not pick Newcastle correctly. Newcastle versus the Bunnies. Get on those Knights. Knights will win. Go nuts there. I got Newcastle -5.5 at $1.90. Go and do that. Newcastle by a try. Should be okay.
Yep.
And into the Saints. St. George.
Fantastic.
Okay. There you go. That's Knights will win by a try, and the St. George Dragons will win just straight out right. I have nothing else to add. Heath, it's been emotional.
That's it.
Get set.
Done.
Get set because we've got the draft in 50 minutes. Good luck to you, my friend.
No worries.
And we'll see how we go. And look, we'll keep running this sort of thing as we go. I'm so shattered. I got to get some food. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everyone. This has been the Theory of Thing Investment Podcast brought to you by Wakey Wakey. Thanks very much to the friends that are out there getting that done. My name is James Whelan, and I've been joined by Heath Moss. If you need anything, any information, whatever you want to do, give us a rating. Make sure it's 5 stars, and we'll keep on going from there. I will talk to you all later. Have yourself a good one. Stay safe. Be peace.